Good morning, Proust lovers. This is Mr. Baer with the Proust Experience. Roll a fatty. Here we go. I'm with Sam Wasson. Sam, tell him.
I'm Sam. I'm 24. I live out in L.A. in Hollywood, and I'm currently a student at USC Film Production.
Okay. Tell him about your undergraduate literary work.
I went to Wesleyan University and studied film and English there. And discovered Proust the summer before Wesleyan, actually. I remember, I'm not sure exactly how I got into it. I know that I think it was through Lolita, actually,
Okay.
because Humbert makes a few references to Proust. At one point, he calls Lolita Albertine, and early on talks about the structure of his manuscript of Lolita mirroring that of Marcel's, and I didn't know what this was.
Well, first of all, before we proceed, then tell me everything about Nabokov. Let's talk about, because we bring in other writers into this conversation,
Yeah.
and we've put Kerouac together with Proust. There's many other writers we've put together with Proust, but Nabokov we haven't. So this is an interesting.
Well, Nabokov, you say it properly, actually. Nabokov is how you're supposed to say it. He is fascinated. I mean, all my favorite writers are fascinated with memory, and how memory becomes the muse. And Lolita is all about that. And Nabokov, who's very aware of his literary heritage, and the fact of a literary work being a composite of the literary works that have influenced it, calls upon Proust and In Search of Lost Time to help Humbert in his writing of Lolita. The whole question is, how do you recover what you've lost? You know, if what you are is an amalgam of everything that's come before you, then what you are is no longer, because what's preceded you is gone. So how do you reconcile the me that I am now with how I got here? And that's what Nabokov is trying to do with that book, and that's what Humbert's trying to do with Lowe.
I had seen a light from carriages and pass, some into the ballroom of the casino, others into the ice cream shop, young women who at a distance had seemed to me lovely. I was passing through one of those periods of our youth, unprovided with any one definite love, vacant, in which at all times and in all places, as a lover the woman by whose charms he is smitten, we desire, we seek, we see beauty. Let but a single real feature, the little that one distinguishes of a woman seen from afar or from behind, enable us to project the form of beauty before our eyes, we imagine that we have seen her before. Our heart beats, we hasten in pursuit, and will always remain half persuaded that it was she, provided that the woman has vanished. It is only if we manage to overtake her that we realize our mistake. Besides, as I grew more and more delicate, I was inclined to overrate the simplest pleasures because of the difficulties that sprang up in the way of my attaining them. Charming women I seemed to see all round me, because I was too tired if it were on the beach, too shy if it was in the casino or at a pastry cook's, to go anywhere near them. And yet, if I was soon to die, I should have liked first to know the appearance at close quarters, in reality, of the prettiest girls that life had to offer, even though it should be another than myself, or no one at all, who was to take advantage of the offer. I did not, in fact, appreciate the desire for possession that underlay my curiosity.
You read Proust, and you relive your life while you're reliving his.
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading this morning from The Captive some of the the difference between the Verdurin strata of society and the Guermantes strata of society. And, well, I mean, over in Brentwood, there's all these different subtle stratas.
Sure.
I mean, so society, it takes its different shape, and although, but there's all subtleties. So, even the societal studies even the societal
minutia
translates into something that you recognize in your own life, and you're always living the parallel experience in the Proust experience.
Well, it's a complaint that people often have with Proust, that I can't relate to this this lost demi-monde where, you know, snobbery was held in such high regard, and people walked around each other like that whole world of the turn of the century. People think doesn't apply to this moment today, but I mean, you're absolutely right. It does. Any culture has that hierarchy.
So what was happening to you?
Yeah.
What was happening to you
when
during your Proust experience? Describe, you know, what was, you know, those months reading the book and where you were, what was happening in your head, because I'm telling you know, it is psychedelic. It's a big psychedelic, wacky, rich experience when you go through this book.
If I'm allowed to cite a teacher I had in high school.
Go ahead.
All right. He always said you need to have two stories intersect, your story and the story of what you're reading. And I never knew if I agreed with that. To really jam with a piece of literature, there needed to be a parallel dialogue between you and the literature. That's what was happening with me when I started Proust. I just graduated high school, and I picked up Swann's Way after reading Lolita, not knowing anything about it, just knowing that it was the first of a massive work. And I was totally depressed about leaving for college. I didn't want to leave. I had a beautiful life in Los Angeles. I had a wonderful girlfriend, terrific friends. I loved my parents. I ate well. And here I was leaving for college from this shit dormitory and eat crackers and macaroni and cheese. I was just not wanting to go. And I opened this book, and here Marcel, I don't even know his name.
No, he's only Marcel.
Right, he's only Marcel, but I don't find that for another 1,500 pages.
And only once.
And only once.
Yeah.
And I open this book, and here's a kid who's waiting for his mother to kiss him goodnight. And even before that happens, he's missing something. He's nostalgic. And I never felt entitled to the nostalgia that I felt in my own life. Being 18 years old, I thought, alienated from myself, that I would be longing for when I was 15 already, that I was missing this girlfriend before I had even left her. What was that? How could I be anticipating the future in the present? And here was this boy, and he missed his mother, and she was downstairs, and I was afraid to leave home, and afraid to leave this girl. I was afraid. And I connected to his fear, and I connected to his worry. And the thought that after I finished this Swann's Way, that there would be the next one. And then when I finished that, there'd be another one. And it would go on. That for me was so exciting. In a way that maybe for a reader it would be frightening. Oh shit, I've got to read 3,000 pages before I can finish this beast. No, for me it was, I'm not leaving. I'm going. I'm going with Marcel on this thing. And it really gave me, without sounding too abstract, it really gave me the emotional courage to head off to Connecticut. You know, it was just Connecticut. And that was the beginning. That's chapter 1.
Okay, yeah. let's move on to chapter 2.
Okay. This girl, Tess, it totally ruined my relationship with her.
Oh, great. That's good.
It totally destroyed it. It brought to my consciousness all of the worries that hadn't reached the surface. Now, that sounds like a negative thing. For me, it was great, because it made me more sensitive to all the minutiae, like we were talking
detail.
about.
I mean,
Details.
Proust is detail.
Details.
Proust is like putting on a prescription of sharp glasses.
That's, for me, is exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Once you are looking at every little thing and the way the light is refracting off of the leaf, and the girl that you're going in to kiss, she turns away and your nose presses up against her cheek so you can't smell her as you're kissing her, and all the anxiety this is causing you, it doesn't detract from the pleasure of the experience, but it makes going into it again all the more aware. Does that make sense?
This is the Proust experience. It is a heightened.
Yes.
It's not just a book.
It's It is not just this is religion.
It's an experience. It's psychoanalysis for artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, if I was with this woman and girl, I mean, come on, let's be honest. I'm 24 years old, and then I was 20, and it became just all about what wasn't between us. That's all I could see, because that's what Marcel got me to see. And
so you didn't quite know you were as obsessive as you were.
No. No. It was there. I mean, he couldn't make you see it if it wasn't already there, but it was there. I just didn't know what to call it.
Yeah.
And he gave me the names for it.
Let's talk about you as a young artist and the Proust experience, and my favorite scene again in the book. My favorite scene I love is the death of Bergot.
At last he came to the Vermeer, which he remembered as more striking, more different from anything else that he knew, but in which, thanks to the critic's article, he remarked for the first time some small figures in blue, that the ground was pink, and finally the precious substance of the tiny patch of yellow wall. His giddiness increased. He fixed his eyes like a child upon a yellow butterfly which it is trying to catch, upon the precious little patch of wall. "That is how I ought to have written," he said. "My last books are too dry. I ought to have gone over them with several coats of paint, made my language exquisite in itself, like this little patch of yellow wall." Meanwhile, he was not unconscious of the gravity of his condition. In a celestial balance there appeared to him upon one of its scales his own life, while the other contained the little patch of wall so beautifully painted in yellow. He felt that he had rashly surrendered the former for the latter. "All the same," he said to himself, "I have no wish to provide the feature of this exhibition for the evening papers." He repeated to himself, "Little patch of yellow wall with a sloping roof. Little patch of yellow wall." While doing so, he sank down upon a circular divan, and then at once he ceased to think that his life was in jeopardy, and reverting to his natural optimism, told himself, "It is just an ordinary indigestion from those potatoes. They weren't properly cooked. It is nothing." A fresh attack beat him down. He rolled from the divan to the floor as visitors and attendants came hurrying to his assistance. He was dead. Permanently dead? Who shall say? Certainly our experiments in spiritualism prove no more than the dogmas of religion that the soul survives death. All that we can say is that everything is arranged in this life as though we entered it carrying the burden of obligations contracted in a former life. There is no reason inherent in the conditions of life on this earth that can make us consider ourselves obliged to do good, to be fastidious, to be polite even, nor make the talented artist consider himself obliged to begin over again a score of times, a piece of work the admiration aroused by which will matter little to his body devoured by worms, like the patch of yellow wall painted with so much knowledge and skill by an artist who must forever remain unknown and is barely identified under the name Vermeer. All these obligations which have not their sanction in our present life seem to belong to a different world, founded upon kindness, scrupulosity, self-sacrifice, a world entirely different from this, which we leave in order to be born into this world, before perhaps returning to the other to live once again, beneath the sway of those unknown laws which we have obeyed because we bore their precepts in our hearts, knowing not whose hand had traced them there. Those laws to which every profound work of the intellect brings us nearer, and which are invisible only, and still, to fools. So that the idea that Bergot was not wholly and permanently dead is by no means improbable. They buried him, but all through the night of mourning, in the lighted windows, his books, arranged 3 by 3, kept watch, like angels with outspread wings, and seemed, for him who was no more, the symbol of his resurrection.
Blackstone Audiobooks presents Coops, a new audio novel by Baer. Before and every place, Dottaville, like everywhere else, woke for the exception. America rules become one big shopping mall where anyone might be the regular place. Dottaville, off the map. Anyone all say Dottaville. Dottaville.